Climatic climax is a state that an ecosystem or biome reaches its last seral stage. When the vegetation has evolved, the environment is at a point where it cannot be further developed. It is in the final seral stage in the ecological succession in which a relatively constant environment is reached and species composition has no longer changes in directional fashion. But it does fluctuate about some mean community composure. Sherwood Forest is a climatic climax community, with the now dominant species being the oak. The picture shows you the major oak, the largest of its kind in the forest.
Primary succession takes place in an environment that has never been colonised by an organism. It takes place on newly exposed land, such as bare rocks after a period of glaciation, as shown in the first seral stage. For this type of ecosystem, a lithosphere, the pioneer species are lichens, such as Bryodana and Lacaron. The pioneer species are organisms which are adapted to the harsh conditions that other plants can't survive in. They are able to change the conditions of the ecosystem to make it more suitable for more complex, fragile plants to colonize. For a lithosphere, the harsh conditions include a lack of water due to the impermeable quality of the rock, the lack of soil due to it being stripped during the glaciation, and the lack of shelter provided by other plants. The next seral stage includes the growth of mosses, herbs, and grasses, as well as some shrubs. These plants are able to grow in little soil. However, add nutrients and biomass to the soil, which results in pedogenesis. Pedogenesis is the creation of soil by the pioneer species through the binding together of soil and dead organic matter, decomposing to add nutrients to the soil. The pioneer species create shelter for more fragile plants and organisms to also grow. The pioneer species help to prepare an area of succession to take place. As we enter the intermediate stages shown, the competitive edge of the pioneer species has been lost as other plants can now survive in the deeper, richer soil. Shrubs and small trees, such as alder, are the dominant species here, as they are taller than the grass, shading other plants from the light, which is essential for photosynthesis. At the last seral stage is climatic climax, which is the stage which Sherwood Forest is now in. Oak is the dominant species here, and the climate cannot evolve anymore, so succession has come to an end.
This table shows the general trend of succession as the lithosphere and the various species are now dominant at a different seral stage. As you can see, within each seral stage there are sub-stages, where different vegetations become dominant as others lose their competitive edge. As the ecosystem goes through the seral stages, the dominant vegetation gets more complex and taller. As the pioneer species have evolved, the environment has adapted to meet the needs of the subsequent vegetation. On the right of this flowchart, you can see there are various seral stages that take place before a climatic climax community, which has happened in Sherwood Forest. There are fewer stages than other serals, such as the hydrosphere, where there are many organisms that take turn in being dominant before the climatic climax is finally reached. This is due to the harsh environments differing from varying ecosystems and the ability of the bacteria to grow. The trees and bushes in this food web are known as the autotrophs. They are the primary producers that make their own energy through processes of photosynthesis. Herbivores are the primary consumers that eat the plants shown, such as leaves and flowers, including caterpillars and slugs and snails. The next stage in the food web is the primary consumers, which are carnivores and consume the herbivores. In the food web here, the primary consumers are spiders and hedgehogs. At the very top of the food web are animals known as secondary consumers, or the predators of the ecosystem. In Sherwood Forest, this is a fox and a blackbird, As we can see in this food web, these animals are carnivores. However, some animals, in particular birds at this stage in the food web, can be omnivores, feeding on both meat and plants.
The Gershwell nutrient cycle shows the difference between the ecosystem in terms of nutrients stored in and transferred between the three components. These include litter, which is the total amount of organic matter, including humus and leaf litter in the soil. Another component is biomass, the total mass of living organisms, mainly plant tissue per area, and lastly, soil. For the deciduous woodland biome, litter is the smallest component, although there is a good supply of litter from leaf fall and some from precipitation. This decomposes very quickly to form soil because of the humidity levels of the woodland. The rich variety of decomposers in the soil then helps it to incorporate humus from the decomposed litter downwards towards the soil. The soil is moderate due to the balance between lots of decomposition, little weathering, and a lot of leaching from the soil. Woodland has a lot of density, therefore, per square metre. There is a relative little uptake of nutrients by the plants. In the woodland biome, most of the nutrients are in the biomass, which is in the organic matter.
One thing that is interesting about the biome and its climate is that it has 4 distinct seasons: spring, summer, autumn and winter. Most deciduous forests have a mild summer averaging around 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Summer months usually begin in early June and end in late August. Winter months don't begin until December. Winter temperatures are fairly cool, with an average temperature of little below freezing. Climate is a mix of temperature and precipitation. Deciduous forests have almost 14 inches of rain in the winter months and more than 18 inches of rain in the summer months.
Latitude range for deciduous forests is anywhere from 13 north to 28 south. This is fairly close to the equator, where it is warm for some of the year. However, there are still seasons. Due to the forest mainly being in the northern hemisphere, the temperature is higher close to the equator, which is shown by the yellow dashed line because this is where the sun heat is concentrated, as it doesn't have very far to travel. An ocean locates almost all of the world's deciduous forests. The ocean and the wind are 2 big factors of why the temperature and the climate change so much in this biome.
The energy flow diagram shows how energy flows through the food web for woodland. Energy is lost at each stage by the organism through respiration and decomposers. The source of energy is through light provided by the producers or autotrophs and transferred to the organisms as consumption, which takes place. As the energy is passed through each organism, much of it is lost. Approximately 84% of the living processes of the animal or plant. This means that at the top of the food chain, for example, when a fox consumes a vole, there is little energy to be gained from that just one vole. This explains why a fox must eat many voles in order to gain enough energy. The pyramid of numbers shows how one producer can provide a source of energy and food for many primary consumers. This is due to the fact that the biomass of this one producer is so large, as represented in the pyramid of biomass. The secondary and tertiary consumers then get less and less, which corresponds directly to the pyramid of biomass. The diagram links to the energy flow diagram, which we saw previously. The number and the biomass of consumers, as we ascend the pyramid, decreases due to less and less energy being transferred to the organisms. Sherwood Forest has a wide variety of both flora and fauna species. The soil types of zonal soil, which is known as brown earth. The dominant species is oak, which has a broad, thin leaves that absorb lots of sunlight easily, and the trees shed their leaves for efficiency, as it slows transpiration and also has an added advantage of stopping the tree becoming dried out at a time where moisture may not easily be accessible, because the soil may be frozen. The fauna in the area ranges from mammals to reptiles to insects. A single oak tree can be the home to more than 40 different species of insects. They are all found ecological niches, consuming different parts of the tree, or consuming each other's insects. In turn, all these insects attract birds and the mammals to predate on them. The dead and decaying litter from the trees and its inhabitants attracts fungi, beetles, earthworms, microbes, and other decomposers to the soil beneath the tree. An oak tree is the heart of its own separate ecosystem. Thank you for watching.